Welcome to Module 11B, which deals with franchising. All right, another way of expanding the business. In the prior module, we talked about different types of expansion, mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures, hostile takeovers, leveraged buyouts. Now we're going to look at the last one in that list from the chart, beginning charts of the prior module, which is called franchising. Here are the objectives. How does franchising differ from the other forms? Like everything else in this course and in the real world of business, there are advantages and disadvantages involving a franchise, particularly buying a franchise. Also, you may want to turn your own business into a franchise for others to buy. And then we're going to talk about something called the Uniform Franchising Offering Circular. Just take a quick look at that because it is important. There's quite a bit of material for read for next week, meaning this week, from week 10. So the read for this week stuff is about franchising, gives a little different perspective than the textbook does. The textbook takes a more academic view. This is the material that I provided is a little more pragmatic, and there are also articles in there about selecting a franchise. The one article that talks about franchises that work out gives some examples as to the kinds of money that you're talking about to come up with a franchise, and the startup costs can be significant, although there are ways of getting funds to do that. Well, excuse me. Here is the definition of franchising. The manufacturer or distributor of a trademarked product, brand name, right? Trademarked product or service, gives the rights of local distribution, exclusive rights of local distribution, to an independent retailer. What does that retailer do in return? They have to pay a purchase price, which could be anywhere from $25,000 to several $100,000, plus the payment of ongoing royalties, a percentage, and it is typically a percentage of gross receipts, not profits. So they get a percentage of what comes into the cash register. And in return, the retailer agrees to conform to certain procedures, certain menus in the case of food, certain ways of doing business, using certain things, providing certain discounts when the franchisor, the manufacturer, decides to have a sale, something like that. Well, let's look at this in a little more detail. The franchisor, it's also, I've seen spelled franchise or instead of ER. In fact, I think some places in the textbook they use OR. They're kind of inconsistent. But according to Webster's dictionary, it is ER. And that's the company that offers the franchise. That's the manufacturer. That's the original idea. Kentucky Fried Chicken. The franchisee, double E, is the retailer, the person who buys the franchise. And they hope to have a better chance of success because of it's established. Rather than starting it out on their own, rather than starting their own little hamburger place, they go buy a McDonald's franchise or a Wendy's franchise or a Burger King, you name it. There's tons of them out there. And the idea is that they have a better chance of being profitable and being successful, despite the fact that they have to pay money up front to buy this thing, and they have to pay so much per month as ongoing royalties. They hope that, there will be enough left over that they could still do better than they did on their own. Well, what kind of franchises can you get? And I'm not going to go through a long list here. I'm sure you can find it on your own. There are basically three models. One is what's known as a dealership, and here we're thinking about, John Deere, tractors, lawnmowers, that kind of stuff. Automobile dealerships, Ford, Volvo, Saab, Toyota. You become a dealer and are linked to that manufacturer. Companies like McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, Blockbuster typically fall into the name or image category. And again, there's no real hard rules here. This is just, an academic breakdown of the types. So, you can say, well, McDonald's is really a dealership, or McDonald's is really something else. But, again, the text tends to categorize it into these three buckets, as it were. But again, they think in terms of McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, those kinds of things. A brand image, a methodology, a set of products, or service. And finally, there are services. And in the services arena, franchises are quite prevalent too. Jackson Hewitt, tax preparation service is a franchise. DuraClean, cleaning carpets. Stanley Steamer, cleaning carpets, are nationwide franchises. I'm sure you can name many, many others. Lastly, or rather another idea is that you can package your own business idea, your new innovation, your new venture. You can package this thing and sell it as a franchise to other people. College-based businesses are a good example of that kind of possibility. In fact, a group of my students in prior face-to-face courses a few years ago came up with an idea, put it together as a business plan for this course, and basically it was an on-campus, and I not to protect them, can't go into details, but what it was a college-based business. Well, it had some success in local area colleges, and the thought was, hey, maybe we could take this to other colleges. The problem is taking it to, say, Ohio State or Penn State or out to the Midwest or the West Coast would be tough to manage. So the idea was, hey, why don't we try and package this thing into a franchise and sell it to young entrepreneurs out at those schools and essentially let them run it. Well, the thing hasn't exactly taken off, hasn't been successful, but the idea was good. As we'll see a little bit later, packaging this thing and making it into a franchise that you can sell is not an easy task. If you want franchise information, and I don't know if you can see this on the screen, but there is a website that will just give you lots and lots of information, and that is www.franchise.org. Franchise.org. Take a look at it. Good website. Okay, what's the advantages of a franchise? Well, let's look at it from the franchisee's standpoint. And in these next charts, as we go through these charts of advantages and disadvantages and possible issues, I would ask you to view and think about each of these from two different perspectives. From one perspective is you as the franchisee, you as the person who has bought the franchise or intends to buy the franchise, and what's it going to do for you and what's the disadvantages. The other perspective is you as the franchisor or franchisor, the person packaging and selling the franchise. You know, what are the advantages to you? What are the disadvantages to you? So look at it from both perspectives. Well, from the franchisee's standpoint, as the chart says, you get an accepted name, you get McDonald's, you get Burger King, you get Stanley Steamer, you get, practically anything you want, 7-Eleven. Quick Check is not a franchise. Quick Check is strictly in New Jersey, and it's a company-owned. These are company-owned stores. But 7-Eleven is a franchise, and places like that. The idea is you get lower risk of failure that we talked about. They come in, they give you training, they send you off to school. Again, one of my students in a prior semester was out for several weeks because he had to go to Dunkin' Donuts school to learn how to make the donuts. He and his family were buying a Dunkin' Donuts franchise, and had to go through that training process. They also, a good franchisor will also have packaged training for your employees, ways of either classes or at least materials that you can use to train your employees. Again, very important in an environment like a fast food environment, such as a McDonald's or a Burger King. And they pick the location, they help you pick the location, they do the market research. They want to be pretty sure that you can be and will be successful. So they give a lot of assistance for the money that they charge. If you haven't got the money to come up with the down payment and to get the store, and again, buying the franchise may not be that expensive. It may be $25,000 to $50,000, but you may have to outfit the store, pay for all the equipment, pay for the renovations, so that something like a Blockbuster video store, by the time you open the door, you will probably have expended, I have been told, anywhere from $400,000 to $800,000 to get that store up and running. So if you don't have that kind of money sitting in the bank, most franchisors, at least bigger franchisors, do have access to loans, small business loans, SBA-based loans that we talked about earlier in the course, and can help you qualify for those and get those. I have done several deals for franchisees with Subway sandwich chain, and again, they provide their own financing, and have access to banks that will lend the franchisee the money. They'll help you lay out the building, the stock control. They also enable you to buy products through them, through their suppliers, at discount rates, so you can get it cheaper than if you were an independent. They provide insurance, they provide benefits for you, for your employees. There are lots of good things. Also, there's the concept of co-op ads. This is we talked about this in advertising, that the franchisor will pay for the basic ad, be it a billboard, a TV ad, a radio ad, or just things like flyers and brochures and signs for the windows, and you pay part of that. You pay part of the cost. You as the franchisee, and the franchisor pays the other part. Advantages to the franchisor are the other side of the coin. You can expand a lot quicker. You don't need your own money to build more stores, to build more operations. You typically don't have an employee who's just collecting a paycheck. You have an entrepreneur who has an incentive to succeed. They are putting their own money on the table to make this thing happen and are willing to work very hard to make it succeed. You can, of course, generate more revenue because you got a bigger business, and more profits go along with that because, again, when we talked about expansion, we talked about increasing the revenue and scope of the business, the size of the business, economies of scale come into play. So you can buy things cheaper and make more profits. And again, co-op ads help the franchisor as well as the franchisee because, again, each of you is sharing part of the cost of this thing. But just like everything else, there's some downsides. And one of those downsides is the question of, do both sides live up to what they're supposed to do? You know, if everything is done in good faith and everything works out the way it's supposed to be, as opposed to things are terrific. However, bad stuff happens, things don't always go as planned, and there are some problems. From the franchisor standpoint, from the company, the manufacturer's standpoint, from McDonald's standpoint, are the people that we're hiring, these franchisees that we're putting out there into all these locations, are they quality? Are they going to do the job they're supposed to do? Are they going to put in the level of effort necessary? Are they going to be proud of their business? Are they going to do it? Are they going to protect my image, my reputation? McDonald's is known for its cleanliness. They are literally paranoid about cleanliness within their stores, within their restaurants, and have people going out and constantly checking the franchisees and making, unannounced visits just to see how things are. Will they protect the reputation? One bad franchisee can cause problems, and there are examples that has happened. Okay, Dunkin' Donuts, and I have to go back a couple of years. It was 2002 that Dunkin' Donuts hit the newspapers in a big way. They were filing lawsuits against their franchisees who were not keeping the Dunkin' Donuts facilities clean enough. And there were problems that the Dunkin' Donuts was saying, hey, we will buy back this franchise. We don't want you running this Dunkin' Donuts store anymore. You are giving us a bad image, a bad reputation. Major problem. They solved it. Things got better. It has gone away, but it is still an issue. On the other side of the coin is the franchisee issue. The person who bought the franchise, you and me, as the entrepreneur. We bought this franchise. What are we getting for our money? We're paying, we paid a lot of money up front, and now we're paying a percentage, could be 2% per month, 7% per month of gross receipts again. What value added is the franchisor giving us to warrant that royalty payment? Quiznos had a problem back in the 2005 time frame. Quiznos was charging high fees. They never really did exactly say in the press what their fees were. Never gave a percentage. I'm just looking at the notes from the article now. They really never did give a. Oops, I'm sorry. Some of the Quiznos franchisees claim that they have to pay 11% of their sales in royalties and marketing fees to Quiznos. And what Quiznos did was they weasel worded, I guess is the only way I can describe it, the area that a given franchisee would have. In other words, we're going to put a Quiznos restaurant, and of course you know what Quiznos is, I hope. It's another one of these fast food sandwich chains, toasted subs, those kinds of things. We're going to put one at this location in town, on this particular road, and you will have a 2-mile or 3-mile radius of business, or maybe bigger. And what they did is they left the door open to put in others. And what some Quiznos franchisees found was that another Quiznos was being built fairly close, and particularly in areas that were not high density population areas. A given person, and I know this is a personal fact. I have 2 Quiznos that I am about equidistant from, and I could go to either one and get there within probably 4 or 5 minutes by car, and that should not be the situation. A good franchisor will give the franchisee an exclusive territory. Another example that I saw was one franchise offering was he said, we're going to give you a franchise to do this fast food on this campus of this particular college. It wasn't NJIT, of this particular college, and you will be the only. We will not give anybody else the same franchise at this college. However, it didn't stop the franchisor from potentially opening another franchisee, another restaurant of the same fast food restaurant of the same type, just off campus, 1 block off campus, 2 blocks off campus. Well, fortunately that was caught, and again, some people are perhaps more honest than others. In terms of royalty payments, the other thing is another example. The Fred Astaire organization. Fred Astaire is a ballroom dancing organization, franchisees. Again, they were charging, typically charge 7% of gross sales. They weren't doing any advertising. They really weren't providing a whole lot of value added for that money. So what happened? As a consequence, many of the franchisees, as the franchise expired, and they go for a number of years, and then you can renew, and it's multiple renewals, but you don't have to renew. And they opted to go independent because they said, "Hey, wait a minute, we've got our staff, we have our own trained teachers, typically independent contractors, if you remember that term. They're independent contractors, and you guys aren't doing anything for us. We have our customer base, we have our place, we have our own organization, our own procedures. We don't need you. So goodbye." Ever see a Dairy Queen ice cream place? that has gone independent, or a Carvel, I don't even think Carvels are around much anymore, that has gone independent? Sure. Why? Because they had all the equipment that they owned, they had a customer base, they had a business model that they knew. They could buy their supplies from anybody. They didn't have to buy it from Dairy Queen. And many of them decided that the royalties that they were paying weren't worth it. It wasn't, the royalties were too high in return for the fact that you had cups that had the Dairy Queen logo on it, and that you could sell blizzards that are a trademark of Dairy Queen. You could sell the same thing as a mix-in, didn't need it. So again, you got to be careful and look at it from both sides, when you're thinking about a franchise. If you're going to look at a franchise, see if you fit it. Do you really want to run a McDonald's? Do you really want to run a Dunkin' Donuts? Very often these fast food places have to be family run, meaning that you need a core of people that you can trust and that you know and feel comfortable with, because it involves a lot of hours, 7-day-a-week business, many, many hours per day. You're not going to do it on your own. Do some research, find out. Go talk to some franchisees, and not necessarily the ones that the franchisor directs you to. They'll give you a list of, here's some franchisees, go talk to these people. Ask them for their honest opinion. Yeah, right. They have typically, they will set you up. They will make sure you see ones that are happy. Go to the phone book. Go to the web. Find other places. Contact those people. See if everybody's happy. Do a lot of research. You got to find out, what's going on. Before you put up your hard-earned or borrowed money, make sure you know what you're doing. It's an involved process. And you can negotiate the franchise agreement. Many franchisors will tell you, nope, this is the standard package, this is the deal, take it or leave it. We're not going to change this, we're not going to change that. Bull. Okay? Anything can be changed if you are willing to negotiate it, if you are willing to take a hard line and push. And you got to do that. It could be the difference between success or failure. Ask lots of questions. The only dumb question is the one that you are afraid to ask. So don't take the position of, well, this sounds like a stupid question, so I better not ask it. Go ahead and ask. And if you don't understand the answer, ask it again. Particularly with financial statements. All right, if you look at the financial statements and you don't understand it, ask for an explanation. They should be able to explain it in simple terms. It should be no more complicated than the examples we looked at in week 3 in basic finance. A balance sheet, an income and expense statement or a profit and loss statement, a cash flow statement. If they cannot explain it in simple terms, they are lying. They are hiding something. So beware. Another one of the pieces of supplemental reading that I strongly recommend that you take a look at is the piece called Start franchise business, and its real title is So You Want Your Own Business. And it talks about buying a franchise and the possible problems and traps that that you can fall into. It is extremely worthwhile in terms of reading. And actually, if you notice where that comes from, it comes from Ladies' Home Journal, which is an interesting source. It's not a business magazine. Okay, one of the key pieces that you have to research is the offering document that the franchisor puts out, and it's called the Uniform Franchise Offering Circular, or UFOC. It is not a circular. It's anywhere from, could be as small as 30 pages, but typically 50 to 100 pages. It's required by the Federal Trade Commission, plus each state that the franchisor intends to put stores or operations into, in other words, get franchisees in that state. Each state adds its own requirements from its own business and business boards and commissions and licensing regulations. It has all kinds of detail about the founders, the finances, any lawsuits, any complaints. I mean, it goes into all kinds of nitty-gritty with lots and lots of financial detail and verbal detail too. It is the good, the bad, and the ugly of what the franchise is about. You should read it, but you should also have an attorney and an accountant review it before you commit. Unfortunately, I have had people come to me and say, hey, we're doing this, we need a little bit of advice. And I say, well, do you want me to look at the UFOC? Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But you know what? We've already put our $50,000 down, money. We paid them the $50,000 for the franchise. So we're committed. So my answer usually is, then why spend money with me reviewing it to find out if you made a mistake when you've already possibly made it? So do it before you commit. In the supplemental reading, and it's not really reading, it's just something to look at, is the table of contents, first opening pages of the UFOC for a franchisor. And if you just look at the table of contents, you'll kind of get the idea of the different kinds of things that are talked about in a UFOC and the scope of it. This one isn't too bad. It's only about, it was about 50 pages in total by the time you got the exhibits done. But take a look at that. Okay, another possibility is to, as I said earlier, to take your own innovation, your own new venture, and package it and build your own franchise chain. As I said, it's like in the example I gave of the college business, rather than try to manage businesses and employees at all these different locations at different colleges, you put it out there and have an entrepreneurial team who's dedicated to make this thing work because they have money invested in it, and a lot less management problems. It's a good way to get money because other people are putting up the funds. But again, we come back to the McDonald's question. Are you going to get the same quality, the same service, or would it be better to run them as company stores? Just to open up additional stores that you manage. Hard to say. Starbucks. Historically, Starbucks were all company-owned stores. It was never a franchise. Howard Schultz, the CEO, did not want to do franchises. But he didn't feel that he could have keep the same control, keep the same quality. He decided to move on to, he was still part of the Starbucks organization, but he stopped being CEO, and franchising, became another way of dealing with the situation. And Starbucks does offer franchises at this point in time. Key question is, can you package this thing, and can you sell the package? It's not an easy task. Again, think of any decent level, McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, 7-Eleven, and there's a lot of work that went into putting that package together so that it could be sold to franchisees and pass the scrutiny both of the Federal Trade Commission and the various states, in terms of this UFOC that has to be put together. Is your product, your service, unique enough? And do you have the intellectual property protection? Do you have everything trademarked? Do you have everything copyrighted? Do you have everything patented to avoid some independent coming in and knocking you off and doing this thing on an independent basis? Is it unique enough and protected enough that it adds value, such as your brand name, your training, your marketing? And again, the question that the franchisee is going to have to ask him or herself is it worth it? Is it worth what I'm being asked to pay? Lastly, if you're going to go and try to turn your business into a franchise, you're going to have to get expert advice and assistance. Go to places like franchise.org. There are companies out there who can help you orchestrate this thing and put it together. It is just simply not a do-it-yourself kind of opportunity. You're going to need professional help, and you're going to need quite a bit of money, investment capital or otherwise, to turn this thing into a decent franchise. Okay, that's it for week 11. Next week, in week 12, we are going to look at 3 topics: ethics, as they apply to the entrepreneur; going public, and typically we're talking about IPOs, or initial public offerings, what is involved there, and, again, positives and negatives; and finally, getting out of the business. So when you want to retire, when you want to end it, when you want to sell it. It's called an exit plan, and we'll be exploring that. And I will also give you information about the finalizing your business plan and the elevator pitch that goes with it, and possibly doing the optional presentations online. So again, look at the supplemental readings, and there is Read for Next Week material that you should read, as well as the text. All right. Thank you very much, and see you next week.